All right, so I was scrolling through my comments today thinking of what to do a video on for a morning segment, which are typically shorter, but I'm just going to make them as long as I feel like talking because 10 minutes to me feels like a very short video. But as I was scrolling through, I came across this comment. You should do a video about SpongeBob. SpongeBob is what the corporation want us to be. Mr. Krab is the corporation, and the intelligent, creative person is Squidward. So, one of the office people at my job has been calling me that for the past 6 months because she calls herself SpongeBob. And this is a person that I would say has an IQ probably of around 85. Not the brightest person, but a person that's happy, pregnant, and believes in family and doesn't acknowledge the fact that she's poor, which she commonly tells me how she's not poor. And I question that because she makes $15 an hour. Anyhow, with that said, let's get into our introduction. Have you ever noticed how SpongeBob is basically the perfect employee? For a terrible boss, he works endless hours, never asks for a raise, and actually loves being exploited. Like, that's insane, right? Meanwhile, Squidward, the only one smart enough to hate his job, is treated like the bad guy just because he refuses to fake happiness while getting underpaid. But here's the thing, the world wants you to be SpongeBob because the moment you start thinking like Squidward, you become a problem for the people in charge. I have become a problem, and I have been a problem for a long time. Because unlike the rest of the people in my department, I am extremely well liked by the common man. I mean, I have an 100% satisfaction rating with at least 10 different customer accolades every week. I have above and beyond on most of my tickets that I would say that most people. I mean, I've had people call my boss and say he's not like anyone else that works there. And what can I say? I walk into a room at the corporate office and I say hello to everyone, mainly the ladies. And my boss can walk into the room and no one pays any attention to him. Like, truly. And this happened to me the other day. I walked up there and he was sitting in a corner. No one even acknowledged that he was there. I walked in, walked up to the executives, waved at the executives, called them by their first names, and everyone in the room's just like, "Hey, you're great." And that's who I am at work because I don't really fall into the same category as the people in my area. In fact, one of the guys that I work with that's pretty outspoken, he messaged me today and he's like, "Hey, Millennial Steam, do you know this person?" And I'm like, "No." And he's like, "Why did you ask me that? I mean, there's 2,000 people that work for this company, right?" And he's like, "You know most of the people that work in this company." Like, I would consider myself a small time celebrity at a corporation because I do. I talk to everyone. In fact, I had a person today who called me as I was getting ready to leave to see if I would get onto a video chat with her because she wanted to tell me about her day and how she felt about going through chemotherapy. Well, that doesn't normally happen. This is the same woman that was messaging me last night at around midnight too, asking me what I was doing. It's not normal, and this isn't a low-level person. This is a person who is a high-level manager over an entire department. And I had another lady who was messaging me today, sending me she's the career lady that I've been talking to for the last few weeks. She was applying for jobs on my behalf today because she wants me to get out of there so badly because she thinks that the environment is toxic. Can you imagine that? You have a person who works at the corporation who's helping to try and actively get you out of there because they think that you're treated poorly. And I was just like, and she just messaged me a little while ago on my cell, and she's like, "Hey, did you look at any of those jobs I applied to for you?" And I was like, "No, I haven't had time." Um, yeah, I also had another person who got really upset with me today. There's a lot of people at the corporation right now that are on edge. I'm talking about the edge. And I've noticed that because all of these people that I'm talking to, they don't want to give up their comfy work from home schedule. I'll tell you, one of the worst things to happen to regular workers is being forced back into the workplace with no additional pay. And this video wasn't going to be about this, right? I had my talking points and I was going to talk about my talking points, which I will probably come back and do this video again in the morning with the same introduction, or maybe I'll just redo it a little bit. But people are really upset right now at the fact that the corporation is saying either you return to the office or we'll take that as your resignation. And that is making people nuts because for the last 4 years, people have had the option to just sit at home in their pajamas. And the great thing about sitting at home is it's less stressful because you don't have to see your boss. You don't have to see your coworkers. You don't really have to interact with anyone in person. You interact with people, I would say that 99% of the time that you interact with other people, at least in my position, it's over chat. It's over company chat. We rarely talk to each other because most people, again, we don't like each other. We don't like the corporation. We don't like our jobs. There is nothing that we like about this corporation, and forcing people back into toxic work environments with no additional pay. And that's where it really gets people. There's no additional pay for coming back to the office. People, I wouldn't even say that hate is a strong enough word for how much people do not like interacting with their coworkers. To the extent that you're just like, okay, you don't like. I mean, I don't even know how to put this. Today, I was talking to one of the business ladies, and she's mentioned my Gen Z, and she's just like, I really don't like him. Like, I stopped talking to him because I think he's really weird. And believe me, I could say that about all of the Gen Zs. And in fact, someone just brought up the Gen Z haircut, the broccoli haircuts. And I'm like, that defines them. Their broccoli haircuts, their long white socks, their lack of communication skills, their inability to follow social corporate norms, their disdain for workplace ethic, or not ethic. I wanted to use a different word. Workplace. I don't know what the word is. They don't like the code. They don't like showing up on time. They like leaving early. They want really large salaries, and they're entry level workers. Like, okay, I get it, Gen Z, but why do you have to be weird on top of it? Like, every single interaction that I have with Gen Z, you can tell that they're uncomfortable with communicating in person. And that's why forcing, especially these people, into office settings where they can't get along with their coworkers means that they're not going to last very long. They have strong beliefs that don't align themselves with the corporation. The corporation wants SpongeBob, and if they can't get him, they will fire and fire and fire people until they get the right worker. And I've experienced this. I've been fired from every job I've ever had in my entire life because I don't have the right attitude. I don't know how many times my boss over the past, few years has told me, "Millennials team, you're not a team player." And I'm like, "No, that's not me." And the worst part is that I'm very, very good at my job. But mysteriously around my review time, and this is something I also saw in the comment section, right around my review time this last year, suddenly I didn't know how to do my job. Why? Because the worse your review, the less likely you are to get a pay increase. And people are truly suffering in the workplace. This is where I'm switching over to this topic because I see it every day. My Gen Z cannot afford to live on what he makes. He is negative $500 to $800 every month because he only makes $2,000 a month and his rent is nearly $2,000 a month. There's no way that he can afford to live on his own. And he finally has come to the conclusion that he will never get paid any more money. And I had to drill this into him because he kept telling me how, and this is all my Gen Zs, they believe that they have careers. When they get there, they're like, oh, I'm working at a large corporation. I'm going to get uh, I'm going to get promotions. No, you know what you got? You got a write up that guarantees that you do not qualify for any sort of promotion or raise. So your only option at this point is to get the hell out. And all you're going to do is make a lateral move to another company that's going to see no value in you. You got one college degree, great. You have the cover fee to apply to this corporation. But when it comes to wages, the corporations know that there are people out there that are desperate to eat. They're not desperate for anything else. They're desperate to eat these days. And so when you have your workers in that kind of a bind where they're desperate to eat anything, and I mean, my Gen Zs over the past few years have been wretchedly poor. My current Gen Z eats practically nothing or ramen every single day, 7 days a week. He has nearly zero human interactions. The fact that he's become very well aware that the chances of him dying a virgin are very, very, very high. And this is with all my Gen Zs. None of them had any relations. None of them knew that they were going to amount to anything. And it freaked them out when they saw how terrible things were for them and the fact that they were never going to break $20. Never. And I explained to each one of them, every time you think about applying to a job that you think that you may qualify, you don't have the experience, you don't have the education, and that corporation isn't going to give you a chance because there's a 35-year-old man with a family that will take that job and take that pay cut. That's who's in front of you. It's not just you against the job, it's you and millions of other people that want good jobs that don't exist. It's the only reason why they can keep people at jobs making sub $20 when inflation is on fire. That's another thing that it came out today. That inflation in January was absolutely outrageous. We are walking into the grocery store and seeing prices jump overnight. Rents are still going up. Transportation is extremely expensive. Nothing is coming down to a reasonable amount of money. You can't afford to buy a new car. You can't afford to buy a house. And you can't afford to work at that job that you're at currently. Nothing about being alive right now is satisfying to any person that's poor. And today when I talked to that person, that office worker, and she got super furious that I was even talking to her, I was just like, you know what? Whatever's going on with what you're experiencing right now, I know she's dirt poor. She makes 15 bucks an hour. And you just kind of look at people like that. I know. I know you're hurting. I mean, I went out and I looked at your jalopy that you're driving to work, and that thing doesn't look safe to drive. It's got 4 bald tires. It's got scraped paint. It looks like it should have been put in the junkyard 20 years ago, and that's what you're driving to work? I mean, I walked out. I walked out into the parking lot today at work when I was coming back from lunch, and my one of my online friends that lives on the East Coast, I told her I snapped a picture of that car with its bald tires and scraping paint, and then I snapped a picture of the car right next to it. And I said, this is the difference between a poor person that works at Evil Corp and a person that's poor, but her husband has a great job. Brand new $100,000 sports car sitting there, working in the same building. And that's the separation between all of us. There's the rich And there's that person driving that jalopy that's probably going to explode on the next time that she tries to drive it to work. And the worst part is these people still refuse to acknowledge, to some extent, that things will never get better for them. And that's what really drives me up a wall about people is that they're still hopeful. You know, there's still SpongeBob showing up every day to be the perfect employee while you're driving that car. You know, I'd have a real problem if I was driving a car that looked that unsafe. But that's the world we live in. And because I didn't structure this video is a rant more or less because I have my talking points here and I never got into them because this was supposed to be a 10-minute morning video, which it is. I hope you guys have a great day. I'm not sure if it's going to go up Thursday or Friday morning. I haven't checked to see how many other videos I have ready for morning videos. But hopefully you guys are good out there. I know you're not good. Toxic positivity, guys. Just close your eyes and think of toxic positivity. In fact, I'm just going to read you guys out loud what it put for toxic positivity today. Work hard and things will get better. Good things are coming your way. Sure, boss. I have to get into that deathmobile to go home today, but good things are definitely coming my way as I spontaneously catch fire even before the car comes to an explosion that's a mushroom cloud on the highway as I try to get home in rush hour traffic. This world is awful.